This is the Making Waves podcast. My name is Dave Rotman, and we're here with Brandei Schaefbauer. Brandei, welcome.
Hi, Dave. Thanks for having me on today.
What district are you representing?
I am in Aberdeen, which is District 3, and it is just the city of Aberdeen, minus a little bit on the west side and the very south side of Aberdeen. Otherwise,
I remember when redistricting was going on, Aberdeen is just a touch too large to be one full district. So a little bit went into another district. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so Brown County, my county has 3 districts in Brown County.
Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your background. How long have you been serving? Where you come from?
I was born and raised in Mobridge, South Dakota, which is right along the northern part of the Missouri River, 100 miles from the North Dakota border, 100 miles west of Aberdeen. I'm born and raised there, went to high school there, and when I graduated from high school, I came to Aberdeen and attended Presentation College, got a degree in surgical technology. During the time I was in Aberdeen, I married my husband, and we had 2 of our 4 boys here in Aberdeen. Moved back to Mobridge in the next few years, had the last 2 of our 4 boys. But while living in Mobridge, I worked for orthopedic doctors while being pretty much a full-time stay-at-home mom. I was in the operating room. I was their office manager. I assisted with patient care. We lived there for 14 years. And then in 2010, we moved to Aberdeen. And 14 years later, I'm here in Aberdeen. 2 years ago, I was working at my church's food pantry. I was listening to what is going on in politics in South Dakota. I was always up on national politics, world politics, but didn't really pay attention to South Dakota politics, but did not, worry too much because, right, we're a red state. We don't have anything to worry about. Well, so I was kind of bored that day, and I just started listening, and something that the vote that the Senate did that day just made me so angry that we could not protect women in our own restrooms. I had it. All 4 of my boys were away at college or, had adult jobs. And so I decided to run for office. I had no idea what I was doing. I met probably one of my best friends in the whole world, Heidi Engelhardt. She, we made fast friends that day. We talked, pulled petitions, and I ran, and I got second place in a 4-way primary. Finishing my first term in the House. I just won our race for my second term. So this on Tuesday, I just won the top seat in our general election. So that's how I got started, and I'm honored and I'm thrilled that I'm able to serve a second term. So I'm excited. It's going to be a lot of work, but I'm excited.
Elections are the topic du jour, so let's discuss that a little bit. The ballot initiatives, do you have any comment about that? Or how do you think these ballot initiatives, their defeat and one success, are going to affect the legislative session that's coming up?
I was asked quite a few times on interviews how I plan to legislate. But since there are so many important issues on the ballot, what if the abortion amendment would have passed? And, it tied our hands as legislators. Right. How are we really going to protect women and babies in South Dakota? We're going to have to become very creative. If marijuana passed, I am 29, we would have to build a program from scratch to make sure we keep the public safe from any misuse or unwanted effects of this ballot measure. Let's say 28 passed, we would have a huge deficit in our budget. So we would basically be scraping and cutting everything that was on the ballot. One way or another, we would have to figure out how to legislate. FPAS, the Medicaid work requirements. Well, now we can ask the federal government, we want to, make people accountable, and we want to put work requirements on them to have Medicaid benefits. So now that's probably something that will be working on. Because that one, let's say that one passed and all the other ones failed. So you might not have to worry too much about them. With the abortion one, we probably are going to see some bills to try to change some of our I'm going to say some loosening of our abortion laws in the state. You know, a lot of people say they want the exception for rape and incest. Mm-hmm. That is probably going to come this year. I have no idea if it is, but I'm going to guess. People say that the total ban, except in the life of the mother, is going to have to change in South Dakota. I don't know what legislation is coming forward. There might be a battle in that one. You know, property rights on RL21 is a huge topic. You know, how do we fix the eminent domain? Well, we just need to make sure we get the right people in the right committees so we can pass the right bills. Because it seemed any good bill last session was killed in committee that would have protected landowners, property owners, you know, from the use of eminent domain by a private company. So
RL21, RL21 is not the final word on this. There's going to be
it's not. No, it's just starting.
Fair enough. Tell us about your philosophy about legislation. You mentioned that you have a medical background. You are very interested in wordsmithing, you mentioned earlier. So tell us a little bit more about the kind of legislation you would bring and why you'd support or oppose some sort of legislation.
Words matter. I repeat that all the time because if we have two definitions of the same word, which definition do we go by? And I'm going to give you just an example. I'm on Health and Human Services. That's what I was last term, and Transportation. Two really completely opposite committees, but I enjoyed them both. But the optometrist bill that came forward had a change in language on this procedure, and it was a surgery because the definition that is in our state statute right now is anything that changes the tissue of the human body is a surgery. And by law, only physicians, medical doctors can perform surgery. Well, optometrists are not medical doctors. And so now we have, but the bill did pass where they can perform this procedure. It's called IPL. They can do this procedure that changes the tissue around the eyes. So now we have this definition that this surgery is okay by non-physicians, but surgery can only be performed by physicians. Do you see where I'm going with the conflicting wording? So I said, can we just make sure our words, what we say what we need? Well, a lot of the pushback was, well, we can fix it later. Well, my philosophy is, why are we passing this legislation in one year? Let's debate it. Let's work on it. Let's do the amendments that we need to, instead of coming back next year and fixing it. Sometimes we have to do that because sometimes we don't know the unintended consequences of some of the bills we pass. But if it's intentionally because there's not an appropriate word used and it has competing language, now what do we do? We'll see if we're going to be changing the definition of surgery that has been in our state statute since 1986. I'm kind of doubting that that's going to happen. But now we have two competing definitions.
Your philosophy,
sorry.
Your philosophy then is to fix the problems before they pass the bill, rather than pass known flawed legislation. I mean, you can always make a mistake, but you shouldn't pass bills that are flawed. You know there's a flaw in them before you even pass them.
Like when we passed the medical marijuana and the recreational marijuana in what was it, 2020? Was it 2020 when that passed? And we didn't have a program. So one, it was unconstitutional because it was a two-subject amendment. But now from 2020 until 2024, we've been fixing and tweaking a program that was built after this legislation passed, after this amendment was put into our Constitution, and built the medical marijuana program. Mm-hmm. So I would rather have the program built, implement whatever program it is supposed to be, and then we tweak it along the way. Not say, here, I want to have recreational marijuana, and then we're going to pass it, and then you guys have to build the program. Let's get the footings under it before we put the house on top.
Well, yeah, foundations are important. They're most important.
I think so, yes.
Speaking of this upcoming legislative session, topics are you going to be raising?
Well, I think we are going to be dealing in health, and I hope I'm in health again because I really enjoyed that committee. The THC drinks, the cannabis drinks that are exploding all over our state. If you go into a liquor store, it looks like fun, fruity little drinks, and they have THC in them, which is a derivative of hemp. We really can't regulate them because they fall under the hemp bill. This is something we tried to do last year, but we don't have a specific category in our statute. So I think we might have to do something about that. I know I've been in touch with another representative, tried to pass some bills last year.
Was that Brian Mulder?
Yes. Yep.
We talked about that in an earlier podcast. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. So it might be a big issue. I think we got the 21 age. I think that's what we passed last year. That is something I think we need to figure out how to, I know regulate is probably not a favorite word, but we have to figure out how to make sure we keep the citizens safe. The other thing I want to look at is our domestic abuse shelters federally, or in the state, lost like $150 million worth of funding at the federal level. As we know, domestic abuse and trafficking is a horrible problem.
Yes,
not just in South Dakota, it's all over. And so I'd like to see how we can get them some more funding because they are very important to our communities. I want to make sure that we can give our, emergency responders, our police, our firefighters, the money they need to make sure that they keep the community safe. If one thing, I think my whole theme is me as a legislator, I am a mother. I am a very protective person. I'm a very loyal person. So I bring that to the people of South Dakota. I want to protect South Dakotans from influences from outside that are just not what our South Dakota values are. And I know you can't help all the repercussions, but if we can ward off some of them, I don't mind doing that.
Brandon, this is very interesting. Do you have any closing thoughts you'd like to discuss maybe about the upcoming legislative session?
I know I am looking forward to 2025 and serving my second term. I've been told that you need to serve at least 2 terms so you can get your footing underneath you, because that first term, everybody, that the cliche is you're drinking from a fire hose. And that's true. That's
true.
It's a huge learning curve.
You'll have a lot of freshmen this year. Or was next year.
Right. I mean, and my freshman class was like 34. It was huge. So we've had a good turnover, a good amount of turnover. I think in the House last year there were 7 Democrats, and I think that's what there are this year, that the majority has stayed the same. We are going to have a very fast-paced session, probably very tense on the property rights issue.
There'll be a lot of bills on that.
Yes, a lot of bills. What is a common carrier? A lot of that stuff. But I think what we need to really focus on is we as elected representatives swear an oath to the Constitution, and we swear to protect life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, which is property rights, stuff you own. And that is my main goal. I do not have to have my name on a lot of bills, a lot of legislation. I don't need that validation that I am, doing a good job. I think by my election and being reelected, I did a good job as a freshman. So I think that I can go with the flow this year and, maybe get some legislation out there. But I want to just make sure whatever legislation crosses in front of me, that it is the best thing for South Dakota. It is the best way to keep our state free. People want to come and visit here. I want to welcome them. But I want to just make sure that we are protecting South Dakotans from conception until natural death. And that goes with their property rights, their right of their money, their right of their home. If we need to take care of our schools and the vulnerable. And so if I can help in any way in any of those categories, I am willing to do that. I think this will be a very interesting session, which I can't imagine it's that. But you know what? The really cool thing about this, and which is a huge honor for me, is the 100th session of the South Dakota legislature. I mean, how amazing is that? That I get to be part of history in our states, or this moment in time in history of our states. I'm excited for that. it's an honor to serve. A lot of people, they do this in their, I'll say it's spare time. And I don't think a lot of the citizens realize how much time and effort the legislators do put in to make sure we are doing what's best for our state.
Yeah.
So
it's more than a part-time job. I've seen a lot of legislators put a lot of time in outside of the session all year long.
All year long.
You're doing that too. Yeah.
Yes. You know, what's the joke? Our 38 days are when we're off instead of when we're supposed to be working in care. That's when we're off. No, it is. I promise my constituents I will uphold the Constitution. They can always talk to me if they have a question. When I make a vote or a decision, I try to have the best informed decision I can. But if I disagree with you as a legislator, I am not going to treat you anything less than. I'm going to always treat anybody, whether I agree with them or don't agree with them, with grace and dignity. That's just who I am as a person. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that's how I want to legislate too. Make sure we protect the citizens, make sure we uphold the dignity of the human person, and to just keep South Dakota a great place to live and raise a family.
That's why you were elected. Randy, thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me, Dave. I enjoyed this.
This has been the Making Waves podcast. My name is Dave Ropeman, and we're here with Brandei Schaefbauer, representative from District 3.